Most people are so excited to pick up their retriever puppy, but end up making mistakes within the first 24 hours that ends up costing them dearly. So if you are getting a new puppy, or if you know someone that's getting one, then listen up, because I'm going to help you avoid these mistakes and reveal to you some things that you can do to make sure that when you pick up your puppy, everything goes smoothly and you do the right things that not only helps the transition go well, but it will springboard and launch your training in the future so that you can have success with your puppy. Welcome to the Cornerstone Gundog Academy podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. And today we're going to go through the puppy pickup protocol. We want to make sure that you're doing things right. But before we actually talk about puppy pickup day, let's talk about why pickup day is such a valuable and important time, right? Because what I mentioned earlier about the mistakes that people make within the first 24 hours cost them dearly. Well, why does that happen? And what can we do to make sure that doesn't happen? I think we got to go back to why it's important, what is actually happening in your dog's mind during puppy pickup day. And then we can fast forward to the things that you can do as your dog's handler. First up, puppy pickup day is an amazing day for you. For your puppy, it is a different day. I'll just say that, right? If you think about it, you've been anticipating, you've been waiting for this moment. This is the time when you're going to start your dream, the journey of your dreams. But your puppy has not necessarily caught up to where you're at, right? Because your puppy has only known its mother and its litter mates and the kennel hand up until this point. So for your puppy, it's just another day. It doesn't know much more is going on. It just knows it's excited. It's having fun with its litter mates. And then all of a sudden, people start showing up. And then they start to see one of their litter mates just disappear. And then another one. And then all of a sudden, now someone's picking them up. And a little kid is loving on them. And now, this pup's just wondering what's going on, thinking, oh, this is great. But then the puppy goes home and gets in the car. Probably has never been in a car before. And it gets in the car for the first time. Do you see where we're going with this, right? As we get into this picture, this is a moment of excitement for you, but for your puppy, that transition point right there becomes a moment of potential chaos. It becomes a moment where everything solid that has been in that puppy's life is now uprooted and things are changed. So that's the first thing. Understanding that your puppy pickup day, while it's exciting for you, can be exciting for your puppy if you handle things right. And we have to just make sure that we're considering the perspective of our puppy, where they're coming from, like what are they going through, right? If we're just all excited and we're not paying attention to that, then we're really just missing very small, subtle opportunities. And that's really what it comes down to early on here. And that's where these mistakes come in too, is it's kind of these subtle things. It's things you're not thinking about. A lot of times, right, you've done your puppy pickup day, the breeder's going to move on to the next dog. It's your time to go. So we're going to go. We're grabbing it with the family, the dog, we're heading out. All right. So what happens from there? Like I said, immediately your dog is starting to experience maybe some uneasiness, some just new emotions altogether. And it's up to you to be prepared to make sure that you can respond to that. But not only that, is your dog's worldview is now starting to change. It is now leaving the premises of its very small bubble that has lived in. So it's already getting basically stimulus overload. New sights, new sounds, new smells, new people, strangers at this point, but y'all are going to be great companions one day if you handle it right. It's going to be wonderful. So what we're really talking about here is a first impression. And on puppy pickup day, you're going to have many first impressions. One of the first impressions is picking up your pup. But also when you go home with your puppy and you bring your pup to the home, that's going to become another opportunity for first impressions. And that's what I'm doing this podcast for. I want to help make sure that you make the most of these first impressions so that you, again, springboard into success and you're starting off the right way. So kind of the key theme that I want us to keep in mind here with our puppy when we're going to pick it up and when we're going to bring it home for the first night is we want to think about building confidence. We want to build their confidence, and we really just want to try to keep everything reasonably smooth and steady. Now, one key component for you, or one mistake I'll see right off the bat, and I'll go ahead and reveal this one to you, is our emotion levels as people, as the dog's owner. At times, depending on the circumstance, what happens, we can have over emotions or really under emotions. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you bring your puppy home and the first thing it does is potty and you start freaking out, oh no, oh no. While your puppy's not gonna recognize everything right away, your puppy is aware enough to start to recognize that that's not exactly what we're looking for. Now the bad thing is it got a reaction. So the reaction is something that we want to watch out for. We don't really want to necessarily overreact one way or another. We do want to be excited, right? When you see your puppy, I'm not saying go, cute puppy and all that, love on the pup. I think you should do that. But when we're talking about as you're introducing your pup to new things, your pup is going to look to you immediately. One of the first impressions, your pup's going to look to you to start to learn about its new environment. Again, let's think about this for a second. All right, your puppy doesn't speak English or whatever language you speak. Your puppy is a puppy, right? And so imagine being in a world to where you don't know what anybody is saying and you're in a brand new place. I mean, it'd be scary, right? So that's why we have to make sure that we're calm and cool and collected as the dog's owners. And all that means is just basically exude confidence. And that's what I'm going to help you with in this episode too, by giving you some more steps that you can take that will give you the confidence you need. So one thing I do want to say here as we go forward is don't overthink this, right? Don't have this huge pressure on you, but pay close attention to the things I'm going to tell you because they're going to help you have that confidence and give that smooth transition for your puppy. Let me tell you a story real quick. I think it's going to make a lot of sense and be very helpful for you. Back when we had Cornerstone Retrievers, this has been many years ago, we had one client in particular that had really one of the most beautiful dogs, incredible. And they were so excited. Their family was so excited to be bringing this dog home. And the puppy got back into the home and we had walked them through the crate training process. In fact, the puppy had been with us for a little bit, I believe, and we'd already start working through some of the crate training. But there was kind of a big problem because when the puppy went home, all of a sudden there was accidents happening in the house. And come to find out, here's the thing, it was crazy. We start talking to him, we're like, look, we've not had any issues with this puppy, no issues. And all of a sudden they're having accidents all the time. We're like, something's not adding up. And this was the thing that really kind of, tipped us off as we start talking. He's like, it keeps going to the bathroom right over here. And, every time, my wife just gets really upset about it and just kind of goes on to explain that. And I was like, whoa, hold up. What's going on here? Tell me more about what your wife's doing. And come to find out, she was giving this big reaction, just like a very, oh no, get outside, just big, instead of a calm, cool, and collected. And so let me tell you how bad this was. They were thinking about sending the puppy back. They were like, we're not gonna be able to do this. And we're like, hold up. If you change what you're doing here, you can fix this. And they did, and then it got completely better. And so that story right there, guys and girls, is just an example of one component here that I'm gonna teach you. I'm actually gonna teach you multiple things throughout this episode that's gonna help you. But one of those things I want us to just really get off the front here is let's keep that calm, cool, and collected attitude as our dog's owners. That's really gonna go a long way. And if something happens, we don't wanna get too fired up about it. Now that you have the right mindset, okay? We're starting to think right. We're starting to think as we should. We're gonna be calm, we're gonna be cool, we're gonna be collected, we're gonna be excited, but we're also gonna be on alert because as this puppy enters into the home, we don't wanna overreact. If they do something we don't want them to do, we wanna be that calm, cool, and collected. We've got the mindset right. So now let's start getting to some practical stuff that you can do preparing for puppy pickup day, and we're gonna talk about that. Then we'll transition into bringing the pup into the home and some practical things that you can do right there that's gonna make a difference. So for puppy pickup day, one of the first things that you're gonna want is a crate. You're gonna want a crate. You're gonna wanna put your puppy in the crate as you drive. This is gonna give them some sense of stability. Now, you can do it many different ways. You could have the puppy out, but for me personally, I put my dogs in the crate. They go in the crate and then we drive. Now, odds are, I will just say, depending on the puppy, they may bark, they may whine. And here's this other mistake that people make right away when their puppy starts barking and whining is they start, talking to the dog, or they start putting their fingers in the crate and feeling, oh, it's gonna be okay, little buddy, it's gonna be okay. And that right there is one of the worst mistakes that you can make. Why? Because that reinforces that whining behavior. And if you start that now, believe it or not, even at 7 or 8 weeks old, they're already learning. They're already starting to process. So you're already starting to create a habit before you even start. So if they bark, even if it is loud, your family's gotta be on board, everybody's gonna be on board. We're gonna let that puppy just bark it out as we're driving down the road. maybe get some earplugs. It can be loud. But over time, as you're driving, depending on how far you're driving, your pup's going to stop barking and whining. And maybe your pup won't bark at all. I hope it doesn't. But don't make one of the major mistakes that people make, which is reinforcing that whining, even in the car ride on the way home. By doing this, you're setting yourself up for big success. Now, here's what can you do on the flip side. Well, when your pup's in the crate and it becomes quiet, that's the perfect time to say, oh, good dog, good boy, good girl, to reinforce it. You want to reinforce quiet. Don't reinforce the barking and the whining. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make right off the bat, even before they get their puppy all the way home. You're also going to want to have a towel to cover the crate. Now, personally, I'm not putting towels in the crate. However, I have heard people recommend bring something from the breeder that maybe has been around its litter mates and the mom so that it's something familiar. And that's probably a good thing. But if it comes to like towels and stuff like that, I don't like them in the crate because I have found that typically there's more accidents if you leave that in there. So I do, however, like to have a towel to cover the crate. And this is more specifically when you're going to get your puppy home, but you could even do this for the ride home. Cover that way. It's just kind of basically blocking out the outside world. It gives the puppy a chance to just like learn to basically de-stimulate, just to relax, just to chill out. That's something that's going to really come in handy more so when you get home, but you want to have that with you just in case. Also, a water bowl. Just as simple as having a water bowl with you, because if you've got a long drive, you're going to need to stop, give your pup a little drink of water, not too much. You don't want to let them have an accident while you're driving down the road. And also, speaking of accidents, if you've got a long ride, you probably want to have some towels and stuff like that, paper towels to clean up any accidents, and maybe also a bag that you could put any pee or poop in that you could have. That could happen as you're driving down the road, and you don't want to have to be panicking to figure all that out. We want to be prepared when the pup comes. Again, why do we not want to be panicking? If your pup has an accident in the crate versus panicking saying, oh my gosh, we got to find a place to go. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? You've already prepared for this because you're listening to this podcast and you say, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm prepared. And when it happens, it's going to be no big deal. You'll get your pup out of the crate. You won't even really make a big deal about it. You just clean it up and make sure the pup's clean and then put the pup back in the crate and then you're good to go. So that right there, again, just those subtleties are going to give you that edge to make sure that your first impressions with your puppy are good ones. One thing that you're going to want to have done before you pick up your puppy is prepare for the arrival of your puppy, right? Now we're talking about getting your puppy in the home, but you don't want to wait to get ready. You want to have everything ready. Go ahead and have, if your pup's going to stay in the same crate that you're traveling with, fine, that's perfect. Just go ahead and bring it in the home when you get your pup there. But make sure that you have everything kind of picked up. You want to have essentially the area remotely puppy proofed. And if it's a 7-week-old puppy, here's the deal. Odds are it's not going to be getting into stuff very fast. First day or two, it's probably going to be apprehensive, easing into everything, but pretty quickly it's going to start getting into stuff. So my recommendation is go ahead and only have the things out that you don't mind your pup messing with, and go ahead and pick everything else up. It's kind of like baby proofing. You just want to make sure the environment is conducive for your new pup. Also, we don't want to be allowing the pup too much freedom too early on. It's going to be creating some bad habits. The pup's going to go to the bathroom, have some accidents there along the way if you do that. So what I'm saying is you want to have structure, and we're going to get into more structure here in a second, but when your pup comes to the home, you already want to have each place every kind of mapped out and designated. This is puppy's room. This is where puppy's going to sleep. This is where puppy's going to eat. This is how we're going to get the puppy outside to go to the bathroom. Those are some of the key things. And then this is where the puppy's going to play, like a puppy playpen and stuff like that. Kind of mapping all of that out is going to just go a long way in that you're prepared. When you come into the environment, you've pre-thought it ahead. And odds are you probably have thought most of this ahead. But what most people don't think about is some of the nuances, like, okay, where's puppy going to stay? Anywhere, right? Well, not just anywhere. You really want to have a nice quiet room away from everything that you can get your puppy in. That way it can have its own place. If that's possible. If that's not possible, then the towel over the crate is going to go a long way. Me personally, I'm going to do both. Fortunately, I've got a spot where I can do both, so I do both. So now that you're prepared for your puppy's arrival, let's talk about the actual arrival, the first 30 minutes. And again, what I want you to pay attention to are every first is an opportunity for building that connection and building that bond. If you handle it right, it's going to go well. If you make some mistakes, Again, it's not going to ruin everything, but it's just not going to set you up for the best success. And we want to be set up for the best success. So what should we do with the first 30 minutes of bringing the pup home? First things first, we get there, we're going to stop. When we get home, we're going to let the puppy go to the bathroom. Now, when we let the puppy go to the bathroom, we kind of want to let it just explore a little bit, because again, remember this, your puppy's in a brand new world. It's never been here before. Sights, sounds, smells, things it's never experienced. So that bathroom time needs to be a little bit longer than you think. So take some time when you get back, 10 minutes or so. Let the pup walk around the yard. Let it explore wherever you're at. Let it explore a little bit and just walk along with it. And again, 7-8 week old puppies can be a little apprehensive, but giving your puppy a little more time than just saying, all right, go to the bathroom real quick and then walking inside real quick to show them the home gives them the chance to kind of feel everything out. Now that you've kind of eased into everything and your puppy's starting to get comfortable and it's starting to build confidence, hopefully, we're going to take that puppy and we're going to introduce them to the home. And because you've already kind of got your game plan together, you already know where each spot is, you can take your puppy to wherever you'd like to. For me, probably a great next transition spot, rather than just throwing it straight in the crate, would be to really just let it explore a little bit. Now, if your puppy didn't go to the bathroom when you first got home, be aware that the first spot should not be letting it explore. Maybe it's to go in the crate or the puppy playpen. But typically, if your dog's gonna go to the bathroom, give or take, and then you can get into the puppy playpen and let it just kind of be, right? Remember, we wanna take everything at a slower pace than we'd expect because it's a new environment. Let everything be a little bit, let it breathe, and then start letting your puppy explore, show it around the house, and just let it figure out what all is around. Kind of work its way around, start to get introduced to its environment. It's really important to allow your puppy the time to smell everything, to kind of go around. So what that's doing is that's allowing the puppy to kind of process that environment and basically build that stability back in, which is what we're trying to do. Because if you remember, one of the things we talked about earlier is we're kind of pulling everything out from under that pup. And so it's nervous and all that. So we want to give it the opportunity to build everything back in and start building that confidence up. And a big way that's going to be done is through the sniffer. Pups like to sniff, they're going to smell the environment. And the more that it can smell, the more information that it can process, the more that you can let it go around and see all the different places, the more that it's going to become familiar with the environment. Now, don't overthink it. They don't just smell forever. Just like give them a little bit of time in each place that you want them to be. Introduce them to each specific place, right? The feeding and watering area, the crate area, which is their home, and then the puppy playpen, and then any other area that you plan to let your puppy have. Now that you've done this in the first 30 minutes of bringing your puppy home, now we want to move on to the next phase, and that's really starting to establish that routine. And what the routine is going to look like is going to depend on you. Now, we've got in-depth videos on this in Cornerstone on exactly how to establish a routine, but I'll just say this about routine. You want to have a good, solid structure. You want to make sure that everything is timed out, everything is planned out. Why do we want to do that? Well, the same theme we're talking about here. Your puppy has been pulled from its world. We want to bring in stability back in so that the puppy can flourish and start bonding with you, right? And just here's the thing. Any of these things that we're missing just creates that barrier between you and the pup, starting to develop that early bond, right? And your pup's going to start imprinting with you. It's going to start building that connection with you early on if the environment is conducive for it. If it's not, then it becomes a little bit slower. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to build a bond with your dog later, but what we're talking about is the best practice here. How can we set ourselves up for the best success? And so bringing that stability back in with solid structure and a good regimen goes a long way in helping that happen. So now that you've got the first 30 minutes covered and you've developed a solid first impression with your pup, let's go through the first 24 hours, because these 24 hours here, now that you've got your pup home, you've made it back, are going to be crucial in, again, bringing stability in, building that connection between you and your pup so that you can start building that bond quickly and help your pup thrive, which is going to lead to the best dog that you can have. One of the first things you're probably going to experience along the way is whining when the pup is in the crate, right? Specifically in the crate. Now, I do kind of need to back up a little bit on this. I'm referring to the crate a lot. Why am I referring to that? Because that's where your pup should be a lot of the time. Your pup is going to sleep the vast majority of the day, or it's going to rest the vast majority of the day. They're like a toddler, they're like a little baby. Really, before a toddler, they're like a baby. They're going to sleep a lot. Then they're going to be awake, they're going to be wide awake, then they're going to be asleep. So there's really the sleep and the wake window. I highly recommend utilizing that crate to your advantage, getting them in there. Now, when you put the pup in the crate, odds are you're gonna get the whining, you're gonna get all of that. And don't make the mistake, don't do it. Whatever you do, don't reinforce the whining. Don't go over there and try to calm the pup or soothe the pup. That will actually make it worse. Not initially, it may stop, but what you will do is you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of having a dog that whines and needs you to come over there and soothe it. We don't want that. We want our dogs to be completely quiet in the crate and wait until they're told to come out. That's setting yourself up to have a good dog. Let me tell you a story about someone that reached out to me the other day. In fact, they were having a challenge. They've got a year-old dog. Their dog is a year and having some of these challenges, specifically the whining when in the crate when people are over, right? It does pretty good otherwise, but when people are over, the pup's whining because it wants to get out. Somewhere along the line, someone reinforced that. That dog was sent to the trainer. They just recently came into CGA, and so we talked through that and just worked them through how to work through that challenge, which is what I'm telling you here, to work through that process and ignore it. But if it would have been started earlier, it would have never been a problem. So the first 24 hours is the first impression and the first chance you get to start working through this. You may also have some accidents to deal with. That's why we need that bacterial enzyme to clean it up. Also, let me just say this. I've got a blog linked below in the show notes of this podcast, and if you're watching on YouTube, that you can kind of read a little more on these types of things, on like some of the supplies that you're gonna need. But a bacterial enzyme is what you need to clean it, not just your standard cleaner. This helps get rid of the actual odor. Remember, these dogs have strong sniffers, so if you use that bacterial enzyme, it helps rid the odor that would make them want to continue to go there. But you're probably gonna run into an accident within the first 24 hours, and how you handle that's important. We don't wanna overreact. We wanna handle it nice and calm and cool and collected. If you have an accident, even if your pup's gone completely to the bathroom, what do we wanna do? We wanna pick that pup up, say outside, take it outside, let it go to the bathroom, and then bring it back in. If it doesn't go to the bathroom, then that's fine. You told it outside. So it's starting to develop that connection between going potty and the word outside and actually going outside, even if it's gone to the bathroom in the house or in the crate. But if it doesn't go to the bathroom, be sure to clean it up. Make sure also that the pup is cleaned up, because if it's got any pee left over on it or anything like that, it could make the pup go to the bathroom again. Or if there's a towel in the crate, beware. That's going to absorb the pee. You may barely even notice it to begin with, and that can create a bad cycle. So no towels in the crates, none of that. Just get your pup in the crate. I know it sounds crazy. I know it's like, oh no, I want my pup to have a nice soft pillow like me, a nice bed, but here's the deal. Your pup will be fine. I promise. It's going to help you avoid accidents and help crate train as fast as possible. Now, for the rest of the 24 hours, some of the other things that you're going to probably experience are maybe some apprehension, maybe some boldness. It really just depends on the pup, but your pup's going to explore, figure things out, and everything really should be pretty calm. So it's not really gonna seem like this big deal. It's just gonna be an overall good thing, minus maybe some of that whining you're gonna deal with. But if you handle things right, all of that will work out fairly quickly. I do wanna read off a couple of responses from our members. I actually asked this question because this time of year, at the time of recording this, there's lots of new puppies coming home. And I asked the question, hey, we've got a lot of new puppies going home. What would your advice be to someone? What's some of the things that you would say to someone that you wish you would have done, or that you're happy that you did when you're bringing your puppy home? One of the big things that they mentioned, the members mentioned, was don't worry about retrieving at all. And I think that's interesting because a lot of people say you've got to see if this dog's got it in it. Go ahead and try to get it retrieving early. See if you can unlock it, right? That's the general consensus out there in internet land. But what our members recommend is don't do that. Don't even worry about it at all. What's more important is those connections, the things that we're talking about in this podcast, building that connection, building that bond. And that goes a long way at developing that great retriever puppy. This next piece of advice, I'm going to read off word for word because I think it's going to be very encouraging to you after all we've talked about. There's a lot to take in. And I will say this, as a new puppy owner, you're probably feeling maybe a little overwhelmed right now because you want to make all the right decisions. And look, take this advice. The reason I'm telling you this is because if you didn't hear it and you weren't thinking about it, you may make a mistake. But this advice here is what I want you to what I want us to end on, and what I want you to take home with you, because this advice that one of our members gave is so powerful and so encouraging and so strong. So I'm going to read it word for word. Ryan said, the first few nights are rough, but if you stick to the crate training, it should improve quickly. I set an alarm halfway through the night to do a bathroom walk and luckily never had frequent accidents in the crate. Also, I would say just slow down on the process and don't stress everything. I'm on week 18 with my first pup and was worried everything would ruin my dog if I wasn't perfect. And it's all going to be okay if they aren't perfect at every skill the first time you try it. So we've gone over some things that you can do to prepare for bringing your puppy home. Really some of the key things and some of the key mistakes to avoid, right? And avoid those, right? But the biggest thing is don't overstress. Don't worry, just as Ryan was saying there. And one of the things that we encourage members to have success with their dog is this one key. Don't focus on avoiding mistakes. Focus on rewarding good things and doing the right thing. So instead of trying to avoid making a mistake, don't even sweat it. Focus on connecting with that puppy. Focus on building that bond. Focus on just having a good time. And really, here's the deal. Just be happy. You're bringing a puppy home. This is a big thing. This is great. And if you follow this simple advice that we've covered in this podcast, you're already set up for success. You're already springboarding yourself into the future to have a confident, bold pup because you understand what your pup is going through and you know the things that you need to do to prepare. And you also know some things that you need to avoid, like overreacting and reinforcing some things. And all of this combined together is going to allow you and your pup to have a great start. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have anything you would like to add to this episode, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, comment. Let me know what are some other things that you would recommend someone watching this video do. Do you have any advice? I would love to hear it. I know they would as well. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe if this is of interest to you and you found this valuable. And maybe if you wouldn't mind, share this with someone, specifically someone that you know that's getting a puppy that you think this episode will help them. If you could share that with them, I think you could help them a lot, maybe help them avoid some problems. I think it's going to go a long way. So if you want to know more about all of these topics we're talking about here, because there's a lot when it comes to puppy stuff, and I had to fly through it to get us in on time. We actually have an entire puppy page that I'm going to link down below in the show notes and on YouTube that you can go to, and it goes in depth on a lot of these topics that we're covering here, and even more so than I've done in this podcast. Go there, read it, watch some videos along with it, and I think between this podcast and that, your puppy start will be successful. So thank you so much for listening to the Cornerstone Gundog Academy podcast. I'll see you in the next episode.